Alright, we got a 2005 Honda Civic I'm looking at today, and might be a couple things going on with this. I'm not really sure. It could be the battery just needs to be charged. But we're looking, she said it has trouble starting sometimes and it clicks. And originally I thought, well, okay, it needs a starter or something, but looking at the battery, it's only at resting, it's only about 12.2 volts. And really you want to see it around 12.5 or higher resting. But I think the alternator is not charging that well, and that may be why the battery's just low. I mean, the battery's 5 years old, so it probably needs to be changed. I did do a battery test on it, and it came back at about 45%, so if that's correct, I used the auto tool there. If that's correct, then the battery's probably okay for a while, but and it could just be that it needs to be charged, or the alternator's not charging very well. The alternator does charge at idle. Let me start it up real quick, and we'll show you that. Alright, so actually, right now we're at 13, so actually it's not charging right now. Let me goose it a little bit. Alright, so that's interesting. It's at 13.2, 13.3. Earlier when I was testing it was at 13.6. It go back and forth between 13.5 and 13.7. You really want your alternator to be between 13.5 and 14.5. 13.5 is on the low end. And then when I would turn the AC on and the headlights on this car, it would go all the way down into the 12s. Let me do that now real quick. So all I have on right now is the headlights, and you can see we're at 13.01, 13.02. We're hovering right around 13, which isn't acceptable. I'm going to turn the AC on. We'll see. Alright, so the AC's on and the fans are on, of course. And we're all the way down to 12.2, 12.3. All this is a regular digital voltmeter. Got a hook to the positive and negative on the battery, and all we're doing is just checking to see if the alternator is charging. I'm going to go ahead and shut everything off. So this is kind of a simple test you can do at home without a bunch of fancy equipment. Now see here, with everything off, it's almost at the low end of acceptable. Right there, 13.51, 13.52. So I don't think we have a wiring problem. I'm not going to go chasing all that because you know, you can see it alternating back and forth between the different voltages depending on what's on in the car. You know, we'll look it over, but I'm not going to waste a lot of time with that. I think what I'm going to do on this car is put on the battery charger. We'll take the alternator off, and even though I know it's not working that well, I'm going to have it bitch tested at O'Reilly's, and then we'll probably replace it, put a new one on here. Even right now with it somewhat working, it's at the very, very low end. Like I said, you want to see 13.5 to 14.5 on there. And really with the AC and everything on, you should still see a minimum of 13.5. You really want to see it a little higher than that. 13.5 is just kind of low end on it. And I did test the battery with this little all-tool BT460. I have other battery testers, but I've been using this one, and it came back and said the battery's at about 45%. So it just said caution. So I think what we're going to do, just like I said, I'm going to charge the battery up, put it on a battery charger, and then we're going to start taking that alternator off. First thing you want to do anytime you do an alternator or starter or anything is disconnect the negative cable on the battery. So I'll do that first, and then we'll go about starting to take this alternator off. I believe you have to take the power steering pump and kind of move it out of the way on these, if I remember correctly. So we'll get on it, and I'll show you how to take the alternator off. Alright, so I already took the battery cable loose, 10 millimeter on the negative side, and anyway, this actually has a 13 millimeter nut on this side. Usually it's 12 on Honda, but for whatever reason this one's got a 13. And then you have this tensioner here. It's got kind of a wing nut on it, and it's probably going to be pretty tight, especially to start out. So go ahead and loosen that up. And that's your belt adjustment there, because we need to remove this belt off of this power steering pump and get the belt out of the way, so we get this pump out of the way. There's probably one more bolt. Let me check real quick, and then we'll pick up. Alright, there's one more 12 millimeter bolt down here at the bottom. Just look at your pump and look down at the bottom there. And the easiest way to get to that, I think, is a 1/4 inch with a 12 millimeter socket. A 3/8 drive would be pretty hard to get down in there. So once you get that loose, this should move up and down like that. And then just go ahead and take your belt off. And then we're going to go ahead and take this 13 millimeter, or it might be 12 on yours. For some reason it's 13 on this one. Take this out and take that bolt out of the bottom, and then this thing should, you're going to pull this up. All this is just snapped into a bracket right here. That's your power steering reservoir. And we're just going to kind of set this off to the side, hopefully. It's been a while since I've done one of these, but I'm pretty sure you can just loosen those up and set it off to the side. So go ahead and take this nut off, that bolt off, and then we'll set it off to the side, and that should get it. Alright, once you get those two bolts out I talked about, you do have a 10 millimeter right here that goes to this adjusting, the adjuster. You got to pull that out, and then this whole thing will move out of the way. Just kind of set it off to the valve cover. And now we're down to the alternator. So we're going to have to take the adjuster loose on that, and then we'll take this belt off, and then we'll start taking the actual alternator off. Alright, so I went ahead and pulled the wheel off and took this inner piece of plastic off. Just loosened it a little bit, get it out of the way. You could probably do it from the top if you got really small hands, but I don't, so it's easier probably just to go in through here. And what you're trying to do is take this nut loose, and we're going to take this bolt out. This is a 14 mil. I take that totally out. Take this one out loose, and this loosens the tensioner. And then you take that wing nut that's in the front and just loosen that. Might be a little bit hard at first by hand, so take a pair of channel locks or something and get it to start. And then once you kind of break the rust loose, you should be able to do it by hand. And you're just going to loosen that up till you get the belt off. And then we're going to take this 14 mil out, which is right here. We're going to take this one out, and this bracket should come up with the alternator. We got one more bolt on the top of the alternator, has to come out. But this is how you get the belt loose and get this bottom bracket out. Alright, so all you got left on the top is this 14 millimeter bolt. It's a long one that goes on top of the alternator, goes through this steel bracket. So we're just going to take that off with a ratcheting open end, and then this thing should pull up. You'll have a couple wires take loose, of course, but as far as it being all the hard bolts that are in it. Alright, on ours this bolt doesn't come all the way out. It just kind of hits the fender well here, but it comes out far enough to get your alternator out. And once you get the alternator out, kind of twist it off towards you. You have two connectors. You got this big green fat one, and just push it right here at the end, pull it out, and then you have a 10 millimeter that goes back to your battery, 10 millimeter nut, and then this thing should pull out of there. So we're going to go ahead and pull it out, and then we'll take it to O'Reilly's, have them bench test it, get a new. Alright, so we just got back from O'Reilly's, put the new alternator on. Don't forget, if you took your bracket off, the lower bracket off from the engine, put that back on before you put the alternator back down there. I just printed this out so you can kind of see where the bolts are. I know I showed you already on the film, but you had a long one up here, 14 mil. This is your wing nut that adjusts the belt. You have a 10 millimeter that goes through that, and then there's another 14 over here that you can take out and remove the alternator with it if you want to, or you can leave it on there. We just took it out. So it's all back together now, and we're just going to butt it up, make sure that the belts are tight, and then we'll turn it on and check and see if the. Alright, we got the headlights on, as you can see. Maybe you can't see, I don't know. Anyway, we got the headlights on and we have the air conditioner on. And we're at 13.92. Trying to get to 13.9, so that's pretty good. You want between 13.5, 14.4, somewhere in there. So we'll go ahead and turn off the headlights and AC to see if it shoots up a little bit. So with the headlights off, now it's kind of in the low 14s, high 13s, low 14s. So we're good. When we would turn the air conditioner on before, we could go down to 12, low 13s. So anyway, that's a fix on that. And that's a basic way to check your charging system. Just get a digital voltmeter. This is an OTC, it's an automotive related one, but you can get a cheap one or even one used for household as long as it has AC and DC. And just stick it on your terminals. And you know, you should have, like I said before, between 13.5 and 14.4. If you have less than that, suspect your alternator or maybe a loose belt, something like that. Now this does have that. This doesn't have a regular tensioner. It's got a belt that you tension yourself with that wing nut. So if you leave that too loose, you could affect your charging with that too as well. So just keep that in mind. If that belt's too loose, it will not charge the way it's supposed to. So anyway, I'm probably just gonna put this thing on the battery charger for a little while, kick it out of here, and then this one's good to go. So thanks for watching. If you have any questions, I'll put that picture of that diagram on the end here so you can look at it in case you want to save it. It's pretty self-explanatory, but I'll put it up there anyway. So this is a Honda Civic. See you on the next one. As always, God